The continuation will most likely be out on my boosty. Let's get started. In a sandy place, a porter is fighting for his life against a lower-level mob, barely managing to win by striking from within. When the monster falls, the porter stands up, catching his breath, happy that he can finally use his strength to defeat the monster. Then he is called, as he needs to do his job and collect drops from the mobs since he is a porter. There's nothing to be done about it, and he apologizes profusely. The awakened one calls him a useless, non-awakened trash. The world completely changed after the abyss was discovered deep within. Essentially, it's another dimension where monsters that exist only in fantasy stories are found. Awakened people also began to appear, and thanks to their powers, they could explore the abyss and defeat the monsters inside. Because of this, the standards for evaluating someone no longer depended on how much work they did or how hard they worked. Everything depended on the rank of their awakening. If their awakening rank was high enough, they were almost guaranteed a good life. However, this did not apply to him. He is a porter who only carries loads for the awakened and is not awakened himself. At 35 years old, he still hasn't opened his status window. If he doesn't awaken, he will never be able to live a comfortable life. He turns to say he has gathered everything, but what he sees shocks him. All the awakened have died a terrible death. As he tries to back away, he bumps into something or someone who says, "It looks like only one is left." It's a monster of SSS rank named Asmodeus. Desperate, the porter tries to protect himself with his weak knife, but Asmodeus destroys his arm with one move, making him fall and scream in pain. Even so, he doesn't give up. The porter's mind fills with despair due to Asmodeus's power, sinking deeper and deeper until he dies. He wonders if this is really the end. His parents tragically died in a car accident. He was constantly bullied at school, and he lived his life alone and miserable just because he wasn't awakened. Even now, in his last moments, he still wants to awaken. As his blood drips onto the ground, one drop turns into light of various colors, and the porter is transported to another dimension as the conditions for awakening were met. The porter notices a staircase descending, with a mystical being coming down it. He tries to make sense of everything, and when he looks back, he sees Asmodeus frozen in time. The being is surprised that he is still focused on Asmodeus after everything that happened, leading the porter to ask who he is. The being responds that it has no specific name, but some call it the king. It reassures the porter not to worry about it, as it graciously grants him power. At this moment, the porter loses his thoughts. King? Power? What is this being talking about? The king, as if reading his thoughts, says he needs to be wary. The reason the king chose him is because it admires his will and perseverance, even in his final moments. He desired more. However, the porter should see this as a one-time event, as such a miracle won't happen again. The porter still doesn't understand what's going on and tries to ask the king, but it says he will have to be patient, as the moment when he will understand will come. The king hands him a precious key. As the light flashes on the porter's face, he awakens in another place where some people call him crazy for ignoring them. One of them slaps him, bringing him to his senses. He faces a person he never wanted to see again, Huku. Huku asks what he is doing there, making his life a living hell. Huku continues to beat him and asks why he isn't responding. Then, the porter remembers what the king said about power and opens his status window, something he had never seen before. He also notices that he is 19 years old, which means he has gone back 16 years. If this is true and not a hallucination, it means what the king did worked. He starts laughing loudly, making Huku ask if he has lost his mind. When Huku asks if he wants more beatings, he is met with a furious punch that sends him flying back in tears. The porter officially declares that he is now awakened, wiping the tears from his face. Huku's goons start attacking him, trying to teach him a lesson. One of them attempts to punch him directly in the face, but the porter dodges and uppercuts him. Another, who tries to use ice magic, gets knocked out by a kick. Over the 35 years he lived as a non-awakened, he did everything he could to survive, from physical training and techniques to all known information about the abyss. He even mastered all interpersonal combat skills. There is no way he will lose to these weaklings who don't even know the basic fighting techniques. He defeats them again with his skills, but this time they fall for good. Standing over them, he realizes that he will have to reconsider his physical training program if he wants to build a combat-ready body. Huku regains consciousness and thinks this is nonsense, that the porter just got lucky. He attacks the main character again using the stone skin skill, which strengthens the body. He tries to punch the porter with his stone fist. This attack is also harder to dodge, as the speed of movement increases with the skill. Dodging another attack, the porter is caught off guard when Huku jumps high and tries to crush him with an attack that could likely kill him. As the dust clears, the porter tries to strike from behind, but Huku notices and turns around. With the stone skin skill on his face, he completely blocks the porter's attack. The porter tries to defend against the counterattack, but even blocking it, he is sent flying. He still holds on and remains conscious. Huku taunts the porter, saying he shouldn't have behaved like that, and now he has awakened too late. What will he do now? Run away or maybe try to fight with his awakened skill, if he even has one? All awakened possess skills and ranks, starting from F rank, which is basically comparable to an ordinary person, to S rank, which grants monstrous abilities. Unfortunately, the mysterious skill the porter has is unknown to Huku. He has never heard of it before, even with all his knowledge. But what's worse is that the porter is of F rank, with no chance of winning against Huku, who has a rank skill. Nevertheless, for some strange reason, the porter doesn't feel like he will ever lose again. Activating his skill, his red aura begins to emanate into the world. Huku is frightened, as he can't believe that this worthless person has truly awakened. The porter feels his body coming to life and can sense the magic. It's the power of devouring. The porter attacks again, this time with a much fiercer strike, as he wants to win with one blow to avoid risking his life. Just before his attack reaches the porter, Huku extends his hand forward, and a strange dark creature appears above him, slowly devouring Huku's stone skin. Eventually, it completely consumes his skill. As the stones fall from Huku's body, the whole class continues as usual, as if nothing happened. But at that moment, the sky turns a blood-red hue due to the porter's skill. After the dust settles, the result is clear. Huku is completely defeated, lying on the ground. As a result of the successful battle, the porter's rank changes to E, and he also gains the stone skin skill that belonged to Huku. Taehyung decided to drag all the guys he had beaten back to the school infirmary. The nurse was shocked to see that all of them had serious injuries. After the fight, Hen took care of his own wounds. Naturally, he didn't tell the nurse the truth about how the guys got hurt. He explained that they fell down the stairs, which of course puzzled her. But she decided not to pay attention since it probably wasn't her responsibility. After resting, he went home, thinking to himself that it was good because he could take revenge on his past offender and awaken at the same time. What a pleasure. However, there's one problem: the growth of his wound, which he could barely alter after many years of training, increased after one fight. The skill might be of F rank, but it is undoubtedly more powerful than an F rank skill and can even steal the skills of the opponents he defeats. But why did this king grant him such power, and more importantly, why did he force his regression? He has countless questions that need answers, but the most important thing now is to learn more about the devourer and how it works. He returns home, which makes him smile because, after his parents' death, he lived with his uncle for some time, who warmly welcomed him into his family. Upon entering, he thinks that his uncle will return late from work, so he should start researching, but his thoughts are interrupted by the situation. He sees 3 bullies and his uncle's nephew, January. He wants to ask him why he isn't in school, but from afar, he notices that Jan is rummaging through his father's money. Even before his regression, he still remembers the times when this kid wanted to have fun with other bullies and took all the money from the house to have fun with them. This caused a big commotion. Just think, it happened today of all days. One of the bullies stands up, surprised to see his cousin, Jan, so early, but why not just go for a walk? And clearly, He doesn't interfere with it, they just take what they came for and leave. Therefore, he should act like a good non-awakened person and leave. Taehyung just looks at him but then smiles because this is a great opportunity for him to try something new. He suddenly punches the bully in the face, knocking him off his feet, which greatly surprises the others. After this, Tan moves on, using the devourer, which scares the bully boss. But when he tries to activate the skill, a notification appears in front of him that the skill is unavailable. The bully is confused about what the hell he is doing. He is furious as he can't believe the devourer didn't work. The boss orders the remaining bullies to act, and they attack him with a barrage of abilities. One causes paralysis, another causes poison, and the third causes bleeding. These three statuses target Han, who can't hope to react as they simultaneously fill the entire building with light. After this, the bully boss asks how he dared to deceive them, pretending to be an awakened. He brought this upon himself. What a fool. Unfortunately, this is not the end, as the use of their skills was detected by the devourer, which confirms the use of all status effects and resists them thanks to its mysterious power. Our main hero laughs, thinking to himself that at first, it didn't work, and then it neutralized all the effects. How interesting. The boss doesn't even have time to understand what's happening before Han instantly covers his fist with stone skin and punches with all his might, so hard that this attack breaks the floor. Having dealt with the bullies, he now learns he can use the status window even better than before, which shows the general information about the corresponding awakened. But not all information is displayed. Firstly, his mana was not lacking at all, but the devourer didn't work. So, besides the normal description, there must be other factors that allow the ability to be used. In addition to that, apparently, because he resists and neutralizes skills related to abnormal conditions, like what happened to him earlier, he will have to test all this in practice to verify if it is true. But the most important thing now is to take care of something else. He asks his cousin, who witnessed the situation, and at that moment he speaks slowly, impressed by such an impressive sight. He was deeply moved and reflected on his actions, now humbly begging for his forgiveness like a dog or a cat. He will do whatever Han wants. Our main hero is surprised. He knew this guy was a fox, but he knew this long ago. Today it's not a problem since there is another incident that will happen today, something much bigger. He forgives his cousin, who is very happy, but under one condition: they must go together to do something at the warehouse, which has now become a restricted area. 3 Awakened people look at the abyss gate that collapsed, and now crowds of monsters are pouring out from there. This phenomenon occurs when monsters appear as soon as the path to the abyss opens. If everything is left unattended for too long, as it happened now, the gate will collapse. A man says that it has been 10 years since the last dungeon collapse, but these gates were created and collapsed simultaneously, which is very strange. Dean notes about the monsters that if they do nothing, the monsters will keep pouring out and eventually overwhelm them. A red-haired woman asks if they should evacuate the area, but the man tells her that it's okay since they have his barrier skill, which is B rank. Besides, it's just a small marine gate, which means that the strongest monster that will come out of it will only be C rank. Even if they break through, they are more than enough to handle this raid since they are awakened B ranks. Han runs through the city, explaining the situation to his cousin, thinking that everything should be fine since the control personnel is already there to save the situation. The cousin calls Han "Sir" after every sentence, which makes Han laugh. The gate collapse is estimated to be about C rank, so with the control personnel, who have B rank, there should be no problem, and this incident will pass without casualties. The cousin notes that this is exactly what he said, but Taehyung says that's only if the dungeon is indeed C rank. Meanwhile, the control personnel are dealing with the monsters coming out of the gate, but the man thinks it's strange since weak monsters like these shouldn't have broken his barrier so easily. That's when he thinks that maybe the mana coming from underground might actually be of a higher rank. The woman calls him as something big is coming out of the gate, and indeed a huge monster emerges and, with one blow, completely destroys the barrier. A giant ogre of A rank laughs, knowing that weaklings will lose their lives. The man can only be amazed after the sudden explosion. Jan asks Taechin how he could have known about this since there are no monsters around and the government did not give an evacuation order. He can't tell him that he returned. He tells him it was just intuition. The cousin doesn't understand how to respond to this. But then they approach the road where people are running from monsters. He declares that the gate is broken. The cousin doesn't even know what to say since nothing indicated that this would happen. Our main hero tells him to do what they talked about since he has other plans for these freaks. At this time, in a skyscraper, a man tells someone that the situation is out of control since the gate they thought would be C rank actually turned out to be A rank, and these gates, unfortunately, broke through. Help is impossible as the other awakened are busy exploring the abyss. So, the only solution is the appearance of an awakened SS rank, their only hope for survival. Therefore, he asks for help from the Blade of Madness. Help us, and Hans, with tears in his eyes, tells everyone to hold on since the hero named Hans will come and save them. This guy has a Chunibyo syndrome.
On the street, Tana easily copes with low-rank monsters who turn out to be easy prey. He also uses the Devourer on them, which absorbs their bodies in the blink of an eye, as he expected. The reason why the Devourer did not work earlier was due to fatigue. Since if it exceeds 70% the skill is not activated. Most skills do not rely on fatigue and work only at the expense of Ma, but even so, fatigue is an important indicator that needs to be monitored. The more fatigue becomes, the lower the power becomes, and the heavier the body becomes. Of course, it is inconvenient to monitor so many things, but there is one thing: if absorbs dead monsters, he can restore mana. As he absorbs the body of slain monsters, his skill rank also increases and becomes stronger with this constant growth. He may even be capable of becoming an SS rank or even higher than this. Is the first SS rank that has ever existed since after he freed himself from the monsters. Having finished with this, our main character thinks that he should return to his cousin and see what the situation is like there. Well, an unexpected turn knocks him out of his thoughts. He sees that right next to him someone is fighting with a red OGM while shouting out what this dirty monster will pay for the murder of our people, and on this day the great warrior Ankin Su will pronounce a sentence on you. He will cut it into many small pieces and also create a strong response. Nomitan is surprised at how easily he won this monster. This means that this is the same awakened one who decided the situation with the destruction of the gate before he regresses the link of madness. Hen. He is as populated as he is stupid, and how long does he act like this? They play a superhero in some action movie. Why is he here before Henry? Aggressive, a fierce battle with a giant ogre that was on the other side of the city when NSU prays for the dead civilians with the hope that they will find peace in the afterlife. Hina's skill is activated because he sensed the use of another skill, and indeed someone appears from behind. Hens and stabs him straight in the chest. It turns out to be a mad fanatic obsessed with battles who is happy that he finally caught the famous Hens. Meanwhile, his cousin is keeping an eye on the school nurse who is lying unconscious. He doubts whether everything is okay, but remembering that the then told him that a lot of people will die tonight and one of them will be their school nurse Neon because she will be focused to save other people. Ani is on evacuation to save himself. Hin knows that Kozan can put people to sleep using his skill. Therefore, he should put her to sleep and drag her to a safe place since he will take over everything else. He can only be surprised somehow Hen knows all this, but after some thinking, he comes to the conclusion, surely this explains everything. There is no other explanation. Yu Hyung actually sees into the future. He awakened with this skill. This is so cool, and how much he knows, so much. Nothing can go wrong in this regard. Yes, I think that the situation is very strange because this has never happened before. Hang Su demands to identify the person who hit him in the chest, but he doesn't answer. He's just surprised that the Born survived after his blow because he hit a critical place. Really awakened RNG. Hey, this is a completely different breed. However, this will make his hunt much more interesting because he likes those who resist. This is a villain of the rank of Han Sando. Awakened ones who commit crimes using their abilities are called villains, and this one in particular is a maniac who, during the destruction of the gate, wandered everywhere and killed for his own pleasure. But I'm sure that he should not exist here. Has the future changed because of his actions? Su calls him an evil bastard whom he righteously intends to destroy with his own hands when he tries to carry out his attack. The monster under him comes out, which confuses both of them. They manage to dodge the ogre's attack. Sonda notes that regeneration is truly amazing as expected from a beast of rank. Ogre hits the ground separating them, but Sonda still isn't going to fight him as he points it at Henson here as he notices Hyun. and he immediately heads towards him, considering him an easy target in response, and Hin activates the skill stone skin and answers him that idiot Sonda did not expect that HN was able to resist, and this surprise allows our protagonist to counterattack. At this moment, Sonda realizes that Hen is awakened, but then HN dropped out all the information about the maniac standing in front of him and his science of secrecy that he kill, and notices that it's great that they met. After that, an exchange of blows begins, as a result of which strong gusts of wind disperse. Sonda laughs because it seems to him that he is experienced enough to easily defeat Henna, who would have thought that Mish is completely useless against you, so he decides to use stealth and completely disappears from view. X on the main character will remain no. He can still hit him. Hyung tries to strike where he feels Sonda's presence but misses. The maniac attacks immediately after him, but to Hyun's surprise this time it's the maniac's Ko that inflicts damage on him. Sonda starts laughing because he hunted many awakens is on him, those who make a mistake just because they think themselves invincible. Now that his weakness is revealed, he must understand that he will eventually die, but before dying he must remember that all skills have their drawback. He attacks again Henna, who did not expect that the skin of the stone will have such a disadvantage skill. In fact, he attacks how much the blow breaks the stone, and the crushed part is replaced by the formation of a lower quality stone that breaks easily. This killer was always counting on this. At that moment they think to themselves that this is not so bad. Now he is confident that he can withstand a fight against an awakened rank, since his physical abilities are quite high, and at this point he believes that it is time to finish with the test. Sonda laughs at this, that this guy must be going crazy with despair. Hin asks if he knows why he wanted them to meet, but Sonda doesn't hear. Consider it just chatter until he releases the predator and says that he wanted his skill. Sonda can't believe how such evil mana can exist. This bastard has been hiding it all this time. However, even with this skill, he won't be able to do anything if he doesn't see it. Thane says that he told him that all skills have a weakness, and that includes his. He of course understood after eating monsters. Yes, among the monsters, many of them escaped his sight, but not a single one of the monsters could escape from the predator. He hunted them mercilessly, so now no, it doesn't matter where he is, just like the predator has already caught his scent. Sonda can only scream when the skill touches him and tears him into pieces and takes his skill for himself. The morning finally comes, but not for everyone. It is joyful at this time. Su lies in front of the giant, defeated and waits of his death. He could have done something, but it seems even the invincible warrior cannot evade death. A giant ogre is approaching him, ready to take his life, but when he hits the ground, Hens is no longer there, since you are Hin, using his invisibility skill, saves him. And when everything finally ends, Hin and John return home where their uncle and aunt are waiting for them, who are very happy to see them both in health because they thought that something bad happened, because when they came home everything was turned upside down. But Jane assures them that nothing significant happened, on which Tak cannot confirm this but also refute it. It also becomes known in the news that from the moment the warning about the danger of breaking the gate was lifted, the government closed the school for a week, as there is a possibility of subsequent outbreaks. Relatives and spouses breathed a sigh of relief. Chiv news about survivors born managed to survive in this nightmare is still in the hospital, and the school nurse tells the police how she suddenly ended up in this place. Ends surrounded by the attention of reporters, announces that he didn't kill the giant ogre. The real hero is someone else who has a true heart despite this good news. The corpse, wow, still no trace of the villain who was reported to have attacked the public, is still unknown. These people are worried that the government's security measures may not be sufficient. Hin watches all this on his phone, and since he heard enough, finishes watching the news. He did it because wanted to know if there was any information about him, but there is none, so he is happy. But now it's time for him to move to the next level. He opens the stats window, which shows that he now has 3 skills. One of them is stealth, which was really useful. But with his current powers, it is difficult for him to use all 3 sciences at the same time. If he attacks recklessly, then he will spend all his mana in no time. If he also receives the effect of the fatigue status, his life may also end. The best measure that can be taken against this are potions that can restore both mana and fatigue respectively. However, they're not so easy to get because they are quite rare and cost a lot of money, so he has to hunt to earn that money. But there is one thing, to hunt in dungeons you need to have a legal hunting permit. Even to use knacks you need a permit, otherwise it is considered illegal. Because of this, the only way out is to clear the unexplored dungeon. When he goes into the dungeon, the Spider Sisters Byron wonder how a humble man found them, how many of their logos were pretty well hidden, but no matter how he found them, they paralyze him with poison and get enough of his blood. Hin is surprised that they are smart enough to speak, but they are only of no rank. That is not enough for him to change his rank. With just a few, he needs to eat hundreds. The sisters thought that this man is not aware of the situation he was in. Unison, they spit balls of web at him to immobilize him, but when the attack hits Henna, he just smiles. And how much web is this affect the predator? has developed all the negative effects imposed on him. They are surprised the next moment the predator deals with them. Their creepy burning passage into the dungeon henna absorbs them and gets a new skill paralysis. In the new association of players of South Korea, some pretty important people are having a meeting behind closed doors with the deputy manager of South Korea players Goth and Wook. He cannot imagine that when meeting with two of the best players in the association this semester, the player is essentially an awakened player who is legally allowed to use his skills for various purposes, such as exploring the abyss, clearing dungeons, and so on. Currently time there are 5 gaming centers of the new association of players of South Korea, the largest Korean gaities, 4 great Guidus fighters, indivisible masters, alchemists, magic wizards, informants, night walkers, and an authorized agency managing the players, including the 4 great Guidus, the new association of players of South Korea. And right in front of him sit 2 wonderful players, Master Gilly of the Night Vagabonds, and a player with the rank chairman of the new Players Association of South Korea. He asks the girl if she learned anything about the Giddy of Villains. Glaya Villains is a criminal organization of glory created by the most cruel villains. Members of the Giddy note golden rings with red skulls denoting tribute. She hands him the documents containing information about the movements of this guide, as well as a list of players they are targeting. But she is sure that he did not call her just for the sake of this document, so what did he really need? He chuckles and says that, in fact, he is asking her a question. When did she pass test on the player? A little embarrassed, she of course, when she reached the qualifying age of 19, and the chairman just don't say at this moment. The chairman grinned and asked, can a high school student fight a monster? At this moment, Fian, who defeated everyone in this unknown dungeon, now has a backpack full of precious stones. He's calling the alchemists because he wants to buy some potions from them. Well,
order to close the 7-day school came to an end in the days when he acted. Hin was engaged in physical training, defending the dungeon, and of course purchasing a potion from the alchemist guide. When he first brought them a batch of stones, they were shocked by the huge number of them, and immediately began to treat him like a Persian. So in this way he was able to get a lot of Zais. Besides all this, his stats also increased a little, but his rank is still with him. He has a long way to go, but unfortunately he still needs to go to school. There are rumors about him at school that he recently awakened, but that's not the most important thing. Alone from Anoklasniki says that he has huge problems due to the fact that he knocked KSU and his guys half to death, which means that this person Lee Jen Jae will definitely appear, and just at that moment he enters the class. The reason why they are so afraid of him is the fact that he is awakened from the rank, and he is also the child of the San Gru in the 3rd generation who sponsors this school, and on top of everything else he is the boss of all the hooligans here. He is the same bastard who ordered the KSU to mock him because he was not awakened. Lin says, no, long time no see buddy. HN asks again that I'm your friend, don't bet, __. Get lost. One of Jeej's henchmen asks how dare he talk to him like that non-crat with his blow, and asks if he's blind. Didn't he see that they had a damn conversation? And after which he turns to Taehyung. They say that he understands that he can think that he is strong and came out of the mud because he defeated Hiksu. However, he should be more careful since he is clearly not at the level to talk to him like that. Hin feels the increasingly burning mana. What is really surprising but only makes him think what will happen if this ability meets with a predator. Before Hin uses his ability, a classmate walks and stops J&J. This girl's name is Mayeon. She also says that Kim Hin also graduated. She also has a lot of titles: prefect, rich girl, stepsister, Yeon awakened from the class, exemplary student, the most promising nobility guys, future player of SSS rank, has not so many nicknames and will have even more. But there is one problem with her, and it is that she does not compromise at all and never gives in. She tells her that there should be no, because she understood that the 2 awakened ones were just talking. It was just a conversation between friends. She asks her friends in surprise. She notices that there was nothing friendly in what she saw, because he just hit and watches the tone. How much? She said enough. To which she answers him, what if he goes on his own? Then she will help him leave. So he must give up everything. And even now, while she is still in a good mood, he thinks to himself that if this continues, the whole class will turn into a mixture of yes and flame. But after Jen Jae or Mayeon are thrown on each other's death glares, Jinji decides to leave since he's not going to fight in this place anyway. It was a trick. At the same time, he turns around and tries to attack Lee Mayeon, noting that he won't allow himself to be treated so disrespectfully. Before his ability reaches its target, he is interrupted by the school speaker starting to speak. There is a special announcement from the club broadcast. The Players Association has organized a special lecture in the main hall, so all the students are expected to come there immediately. As Toko Jae heard this, he rethinks his actions and looks at Lyman, who is still ready to fight. He smiles and leaves, says that they are definitely lucky. He loudly slams the door behind him. Does Mayan turn to Hena and ask if they sat down with something out of order? He's already there, and there's no sign of him. When he's standing in front of the door, he notes that they should go too. How long are we talking about here? Players Association. Lyman knocked down the table. KO. Has he always been like this? In the main hall, the students wonder why the Players Association is here, and some assume that it is because of the quarry. In the end, the lecture begins with the GC first introducing himself. He says that today he is here for two reasons. Of them, sorry for the lack of response to the breakthrough of the gate, since they reacted quickly enough, and the Sekonto inform about changes in the selection of players for those of them who have awakened and will become the future of this country. Jen Seka is angry with Hena. Ali Man thinks that later it will be necessary to find out Kimon. In this moment of carefree yawns, all the other students are wondering what this has to do with them. What time does player selection begin? At the age of 19. After that, too says that they are right, but due to the recent gate breach and the increase in the number of monster dungeons, the player organization has become understaffed. With the mind of this, from now on they decide carry out a selection even among high school students. The students are pleasantly surprised by this. Thus, continuing candidates from each school will be selected on the basis of some factors in their assessment of ability, academic performance, and behavior. Hena on the face at this moment a smile appears, because what this guy is now saying is a lie. This exam, it's true that high school students can pass it, but the selection itself has already begun, and no one knows anything about it. It happens in secret with the help of the skill voice of the observer, which rises above 7, and no one notices this skill. It is able to quantify the amount of SI Sukta when focusing the user to view the window of characteristics of the corresponding goals. Secretly viewing the strength of students. Goth VK notices this school will definitely give better results than other schools. They will all become excellent players, but even among all of them, these two are the brightest with a score, or mine with a score of 235 this night. He was given a list of recommending their people to check, but he can't believe that there are so many strong players. He will have to write a letter of recommendation. As soon as he returns to the Lige Association, suddenly raises his hand up and notes that if there are unawakened here, to stay here, because the selection is meant to evaluate the awakened, not only his strength, of course, the rank awakened by situations, extensive knowledge of the abyss. All these complex abilities are sure to get the right to become a player, but in the end the primary difficulty lies in awakening. Therefore the unawakened one has nothing to do here. Right at this moment, many glances are directed at the tech and laugh at him, and in himself the tech thinks to push such a speech only in order to find out whether he is awakened or not. He does exactly this because he wants to find out himself whether HN is waiting or not. Lyman is trying to make her stop, but at this moment the thought appears in her head that HN will say that he does not need her help. So she decides not to interfere at this moment. GUC answers, I understand what this student was talking about, attending this lecture. Then from you after that, Anja turns around again and says, isn't he ashamed? I note that he won't be able to get recommendations as he is not awakened. That's right. But X doesn't pay much attention to his words because he does, and it is necessary to prove that he is awakened for him. Novagoka in this spendthrift thinks a simple who has his rank and decides to check Hena in the bed. He just felt sorry for him. But I direct my skill to Hena. A notification is displayed to him that it is impossible to confirm the status of the bow, in great confusion because such a didn't happen before. Parallel to this, Hen answers, I'm really narrow-minded. What's the use of listening to this information for the unsettled? It will immediately hit your pride. After this, Techen pathetically leaves the hall. AGTVK tries to comprehend the situation. My observer's gaze did not work on either the president of the association or the leader guild, and this did not happen while on this hill. He tries to use the skill Snow again until he finally sees the terrifying stats. Hena 596. HN goes to the library to read more books and find out everything possible about the king. At this moment the thug Lee Jen J comes and says should he go with them since the boss is looking for him. HN asks what will happen if he refuses. The thug is threatening HN to destroy his aunt's restaurants. This is direct what Jeej tell him, so he must understand him correctly. He is an orphan HSH is he, making the life of his aunt even more difficult with his behavior. POS this HN goes berserk instantly to hit one of the hooligans and completely destroys the library. He holds one hooligan by the throat, aka he is choking. Tachyon says don't make me repeat twice. Where is that bastard Lijin Jae? Where he hin comes to the gym where you are Lijin Jae and the hunter. And rank Sol Hun the bodyguard is trying to use a stat reduction on NM, but his skill doesn't work. Why does the bodyguard conclude that he has minimal wounds? The bastard says you actually woke up. If this is so, then we should talk as friends, right? I have an offer from which you are definitely you won't refuse. After graduation I am going to form a giddy Kodo will become, but even a genius like me can't do anything, you understand? I need personnel, not losers like expert, truly talented ones like you. Now Kim, you are young, so you should forget about your old grievances and work under my command, and I will make your family rich. But without hesitation for a second X he answers in his repertoire, Lijin Jae, with your threats against my aunt you cross the line. At this moment Liz Hen thinks that dogs need to show their place and activate their ND's bodyguard skill activates the barrier that the school didn't know about. Their battle and a fierce skirmish begins. Arnie exchanges a series of crushing blows, but HN loses ground. His stone skin skill is not comparable in rank to the Lijin skill. The bodyguard reflects that with the skills of Taken it is unlikely that he can find his equal, but today is another day. Today's battle, in it he will be defeated by the master. But as the battle progresses, the technologist is drawn in and begins to push Lijin Jae. The guard is shocked that it can't be used. Send off the master. Lijin is also in shock. He cannot even move at this moment. He understands everything, that the science of technology not limited to just armor, and the tech himself thinks it finally worked out. The tech has 3 skills, but he couldn't use them all from the very beginning, since paralysis of rank C cannot easily pass through resistance from rank stealth will be easily swept away by his flame, and a predator cannot use so carelessly, so that the real purpose of the technique all along was to inflict paralysis, which has a greater effect when inflicted in close combat. In other words, if paralysis is inflicted several times with continuous blows, then even the opponent's resistance at the rank level will not be able to withstand such a number of effects. Ligon admits that he is really strong. He also gives his all. Breaking some kind of crystal, he activates his strongest. From this moment the real battle will begin. Lin begins to furiously attack. Hina Hin can't do anything to counter this, so he just runs away to dodge counterattack. His attack bumps into fire, the shield, and dissipates, and San takes damage and flies to the side at the moment of thought of the master's action, saying that it would be difficult to fully use the master's skill SS rank Fiery Heart, but before using the skill, he used Crystal Enhancement, a product of their company. But there is one problem. The bodyguard asks the master, stop, is the gentleman really going to kill this little guy? Besides, this is a magical power for too much, you can't handle it. I'll almost burst all your blood vessels due to the leakage of magical energy. But Liz Hen doesn't listen to him and tells him to shut up like he's a simple bodyguard dares to give me orders. Especially since HN humiliated him, so he has to get even with him. Liz Hen directs this crushing power Nana's mixture, and say die MHN. The bodyguard thinks that Jen has already completely lost his mind and tells Henna to run. He will somehow try to stop his master. Runs up to Henna and holds out his hand, but HN gives him soil, to run. He was the first to start a fight. Of course I admit that it's completely different. I'll also become myself. At this moment HN quickly drinks a potion that restores her fatigue stamina Mano, and we are transported to the association building. TK reports to the president about the power of the awakened, and the president is surprised. 1900 2300 This is the truth, confirms his words. They are awakened from the rank. The assistant is surprised even if they have a rank, but how can they even without training have 1900 points? This is already comparable to hunters in level. Isn't this the level of the Japanese saint they will finally be able to throw? And the challenge of the saint is one of the leading players in Japan. She happened 2500 at the age of 19, but even such a monster can't be compared with this guy. 596 points. When he leaves the head's office he still can't understand this situation. Was it a hallucination, a skill error, or anything else? He must find out everything personally. The bodyguard cannot believe. How are you doing this? At this moment they suppress the NN skill until the last moment. Can they believe how such trash as he can withstand his rank? He is the strongest. To which he replies yes. I don't care what do you have the strength of SS rank, or are you the heir of someone there, after all? I have the strength of the king at this moment. The henna skill is directed to Legion, which causes a huge explosion in the gymnasium of the school in Rui, but X didn't expect such a situation. Bodyguard Solhong pulled Len out from under him attacks. However, henna, it's still early, it's because he already took Jen's no. But then the bodyguard begins to say what you're doing. Do you even understand that my master is an ass? Do I look like a person who would be frightened by something like that? But don't worry, I'm not going to kill him anyway. Well then, and here HN starts to engage in extortion since your master the heir of NG shouldn't get 1 billion for him. Everyone from the school gathers around the gym, or Mayan finds out that this flame and mana belong to Jen J. She also believes that he knocked poor Taehyung half to death, so she passes by the nurse and runs towards the gym. She says that she was mistaken because it is her fault that she did not check the gym. In her thoughts, she asks Kim Hyun to he survived, but in the run of his gym, she was stunned by what happened. He says, well, you came on time. I just needed a witness, that is, no, I don't need someone to transfer him into himself. She asks what happened here, to which he answers as stupidly as possible, I saw that he lives here alone. Maybe he fell down the stairs or something like that, she's thinking in her thoughts. He fell down the stairs while leaving. Kim Tech asked her not to tell anyone about this at school. She's trying to find out about Tech, what's it all about. Happened, but when she looks at him, he has already disappeared after leaving the school. MHN finds himself far from the school, thinking to himself that he will somehow take care of Legion J and the NGP will also not pester. The issue is approximately resolved, yes. But opening his status window, he is surprised by him. The charm parameter has appeared. He doesn't understand where Idavan came from. Did this happen because he absorbed the skill of Colin J? And besides, the acquired skill is not called a fiery heart, but the heart of a monarch increases the abilities of group members. But this is even a good skill that affects the entire group, is rare regardless from their level, and since Henna has several skills and can combine them, the heart of the monarch is much better than the fiery heart. But then Henna's leisurely walk is interrupted by the GOC. He comes to the big car cartel and says that he has some questions for Imtech, and the first question is, what have you done in gym? But we are not destined to hear the answer to this question in this chapter. We are transported in the cabin of the distinguished Sudad Lijan J and the general director of the NGP. He is also a rank hunter. He talks with the bodyguard and he tells him not only that my son is in the hospital. So whose I had to pay compensation for his life is 1 billion, and therefore no matter how much we pay we are obliged to receive compensation, for which the bodyguard is trying to stop the director because the young master's opponent was not a young boy at all, but he doesn't listen to him and tells him to stop because he didn't allow the dog to bark well. At this moment, thoughts are flying through Kim Taehyung's head of what he is doing here. He is the deputy manager of the guide. The likelihood that he will personally visit the scene of the incident is damn small. But what if he is here? Because he knows that Kim Taehyung is the culprit of the incident. But in this case he has to find out the truth. Does he know that he is the culprit of the incident? Why does he ask him? Does he mean the explosion of the mining and processing plant? Was confused at first, but then he noticed the fire behind them. Probably it was his doing, but everything is fine. Other agencies, hurry up, there is no need to worry about it. TK continues. After all, he didn't get a straight answer what exactly he was doing in the gym. He smiles because it seems like he finally got caught in his net. He asks, you don't know yet, but you have to be here to give me an invitation to the selection of players. Laughing, ready to answer yes. On what basis is he even talking about the selection of players? But Yoo-hin answers that in that case he will show you his basis. Hin releases his strength and shows the indicator 5214 and satirically asks the question, this is not enough. Jiusi is shocked, but it can't be. He has become even stronger during these hours. This means that the number that he sees at school is not a coincidence. Kim Hyun really has enormous power. Before asking the next serious question, Taehyung can focus on physical training. At this moment his cousin enters Kim Taehyung's room, who only recently found out that Kim Taehyung will take the exam for the role of a hunter, and he immediately begins to exalt Hyun's MTY King God General Emperor Your Majesty Kim Hin on what, and in turn Taekyon responds in his repertoire, are you kidding me? Meanwhile on the street near the house of Taehyung, the killer sent by close group deals with the hunters of the association and thinks to himself, why the house of the brat from high school is guarded by hunters pissing off VRO of the killers makes the assumption that this is because XN is participating in hunter exam after all. This is how the association takes care of its rising stars. Roy asks the rising star, but he's just a brat with little experience, isn't he? These two thugs are killers of the rank of black and white brother with stealth skill. After the words of the white brother, he replies that yes, that's even true if this is a promising hunter without sufficient experience. He is nothing, and we will show everyone what the real awakened brother is. At this moment, the Hin appears behind the back of the black brother and attacks the white brother with a series of short blows. Quickly reacted to what is happening, the black brother is furious and attacks Kim Taehyung along the way. I ask who he is. What does he say? Turning around, he asks, Yato again. And at the same moment, Kim Taehyung's knee flies into the head of the black brother, completely breaking his face. Along the way, he answers the question, I'm your small fry with no experience. And we are transported a few hours ago to the moment when the Guardian talked to me. He burns that even if he keeps silent about the incident, it's not up to him to decide. He alone, our main character, replies that it's understandable who doesn't know about it at all. He's not such a bad person to attract his subordinates to his father. Rosto asks the bodyguard to do everything possible to reach an agreement. But in case betrayal, he uses his ability Lotto ability contract created awaken using magical power. In case of violation is imposed eternal random fine. The conditions are simple. The first, along with the requested compensation of 1 billion. Make every effort to notice the incident in the gym, and the second condition is that SL Hondo handed over to Kim Hena information about the killers that Tae-san group sends to his head, and this moment has just come. The bodyguard calls Kin to report on the characteristics of the killers who were sent by Techno. The black killer turns out to be quite a tough nut to crack and continues to fight even after receiving a critical hit from KM Tech. She is our main character easily. So he dodges the black one and counterattacks. But in turn, the black killer is also not a miss and dodges Kim Tech, ending up behind him. Trying to carry out a quick attack, he falls into the trap of Techno and already Tech. He ends up behind him and our main character gives up in the end. Apparently this is all that you are capable of. Meanwhile, you are calmly driving in the car X. He asks a question. She heard that the selection for the hunter exam is already over and asks the question, who is the chairman waiting for there? Probably Shin Bak and Busan Go, to which the chairman answers X, who knows, of course he is great, but in fact, I'm waiting for your younger brother, of course, which he argues with. Yes, what is my younger brother, since in this family he can achieve something? The traitor declares that she is too picky as always and asks the question, who is she waiting for in turn? A guy named Shinbak, to which he replies that you haven't heard of him yet, but he's quite interesting. The chairman asks interestedly, interesting, to which he replies, in addition to their high-ranking aces, I hear that there is a guy who was personally approached by the deputy. The deputy of the GOC is even more surprised, curious, isn't that true? Is engaged in these two, but again he is unable to use the predator skill. He wonders, hey, why is this so again? To which a sign is displayed for him about the lack of physical capabilities due to overload. Using the predator is impossible after that. The disappointed HN called the Association of Hunters. They argued among themselves that it was not enough that the blacks and the white brothers are annoying the hunters of the association. Now the Kursk Dashas have dropped to thanks Hena for reporting this incident and asks if HN knows who is behind this. In turn, HN dodges the question and answers that no, he doesn't know. He's thinking maybe the list of those who pro-selection was revealed and thinks that he will have to call for reinforcements in order to sort out the situation. HN, in turn, is thinking about the fact that he should not have accused the NGP in vain. Because instead of hushing up the situation, he would have only gotten a bunch of problems, and also the tone of the group is not a priority at all now. Now it is vital for him to understand with his skill. He thinks that he will have to develop his physical abilities even more. But in what ways can he not use a predator on a monster to increase his awaken level? Because this is a necessary skill, and by this analogy, he cannot use a predator on a awakened Drachm Dam. And what should he do then? For something, Yuhin finds only one way out: the training hall. He goes there with Xenum and finds them met by a beautiful woman who thinks schoolchildren and hurry up that they have a training center here for something. EX don't listen to her, shows her a gold card and asks enough. This woman is very surprised. This is the card. one of the 4 largest guides, the alchemist's sweep card. She is in a difficult situation. Where did he get this card from? Is he a relative of a high-ranking alchemist, or the owner? But if she makes the payment, if she just might have problems, and she is wondering how should she be at this moment. Laughing, one of the musclemen doesn't approach. I note that it looks like Ms. Euro has a dilemma and turning to someone, Henna baby, this is not the place where you can enter, just pay and money. The woman is even more confused. The strongest Mr. Conk. It turns out that this is Coach Byron, the strongest Kanchal Dick B killer of beginners. He also has the skills to strengthen the mouse, which is remarkable. He developed himself and, as always, in shock. The strongest Mr. Cahal. This is such a cool name. In turn, think in front of him, and what kind of name is so stupid? Is he crazy? Everyone is discussing the appearance of Kanchal and he talks about Henna. See how everyone is trembling when they hear my name. HN, in his arrogant manner, replies that this weak Brad is stretching a lot. What is the? Kanchal asks again what he said. The solution to this situation is a dispute. If the Kanchal loses, he will pay membership, where for 1 year. Well, Sozum, who left, everyone finished, answers that he agrees, and they move to a game called Virtual Rapist. The essence of this game is that you must carry the maximum weight, defeat the maximum number of monsters B, and get to the destination in the shortest possible time in a virtual reality completely identical to the Abyss. To which the woman notes that this is the most effective way when it comes to fighting in the training center, but it is too disadvantageous in relation to the opponent of the strongest. After all, I'm looking forward to my victory because his skill is ideally tailored for this game. Muscle enlargement Kodo, he can lift beyond the bounds of imagination, and he also has increased strength and agility. He is simply ideally created for this game, but something attracts her attention. HN with incredible speed rushes through the pillars of monsters, destroying one after another without stopping at anything. Knocking out combo 999X leaves the Kanchal in shock, say that he still planned the visit for only 30 days, but it must be because of the maximum weight. The training went well. Turning around, he says, the strongest Kanchal, your name was well. The argument was complicated. Now pay and get out here. To a skip occurs and we are transported a month ahead to the place where the hunters' name exam is being held, and now they are just announcing its beginning. And another announcement, since this year the Hunters Association announced that minors were also invited to participate on the recommendation of people of all ages from this country, flocking here in the testing center of the association. And the most anticipated hunters is Seiya, who has no equal in close combat. KN Niran, the owner of an excellent combat sense, who cannot sing even the ranks of the druid Gal San Aaron, who has no competitors. Busan the thunderous Shinbok with a rank of such. There are rumors that she has the highest score, what of giving a rising star of the level of Saint Ch. Next, a large number of talented people are planning to take part in this EXO. One of the reporters is very upset that there is a huge line in front of her, and if she does a new report, she got out of work, but from such a distance she can't even take a photo. Well, of course, what can my Aaron? My life is ruined at this moment. HN passes behind his back. He grumbles that there are so many people here, and how in any case will the participants be able to get through. She grabs this at least tiny chance and begs Hyun for the date of the interview. Well, that's it for today. We have everything. If you want to see the application as soon as possible, go and subscribe to my Telegram and also to my Boost. Well, Kirill was with you. Good luck to everyone and see you soon.